Okay, audience, wave. All right, there's 6 of them, count them. All right, good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. My name is Philip Reeves, and today I'm going to speak to you on firearm safety and safe firearm handling. What is a firearm and the primary safety rules when handling them is what we're going to be covering today. And when you're talking about firearm safety, I like to consider what Jeff Cooper said, which is firearm safety is something that happens between your ears, not something you hold in your hands. So what is a firearm? The American Heritage Dictionary defines a firearm as something that is generally a rifle or pistol that fires a projectile through use of an explosive charge. This is going to cover your shotguns, your rifles, your pistols. Antique weapons as well as modern, they all work the same way. They fire a projectile, usually a lead bullet, with the use of a chain reaction explosive charge. So the types of firearms that are most common, as we've seen in previous discussions we've had on this subject, is in your long arms you have rifles and shotguns, which consist of lever action, semi-automatic, pump action, and break open or hinge action. And the handouts, as they make their way around, will illustrate that. Pistols come in 2 categories. You have revolvers and auto-loading or semi-automatic firearms. Some antiques can be single shots. You do have some top-rate single shot weapons, but in general, they're revolvers or auto-loading pistols. There are typically considered to be 3 firearm safety rules, but I'm going to add kind of a golden rule. When handling firearms or when someone hands you a firearm, every firearm is always loaded until you check. You should never let your safety depend on somebody else's information. Always check yourself. The first firearm rule that is generally practiced is to always point the muzzle of the weapon in a safe direction. That's going to be the very tip of the barrel. Should never be pointed at anything you're not willing to destroy. When handling a firearm, safe direction is typically up, down, or downrange. The next most important rule is going to be to never put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to fire. Whether you're carrying it when you're hunting or carrying it to and from the vehicle, or even when you're on the range waiting for your turn to fire next, if your finger's not on the trigger, the gun will not go off, and you will not have an accident. The third rule is to never load the weapon until you're ready to use it. Separating your ammunition from your firearm will prevent any accident from happening if you fail to follow the first 2 rules. Indeed, if you follow any one of these rules, you will not have an accidental discharge, or there won't be an accident if there is a discharge because you're following these rules. Other considerations are to know what's beyond your target. Is there a road that you can't see? Is there a home around the corner behind some trees? If you've ever seen the movie A Christmas Story, you might remember when he puts his BB gun target up, he puts it on a metal sign, and it immediately ricochets and hits him in the face, right? He shoots his eye out. That's one of the things when putting up a target is knowing what's behind it. Are you wearing eye protection or ear protection? Prolonged exposure to firearms can result in permanent hearing loss. The use of ear protection will prevent tinnitus or ringing in your ears and diminished volume when listening to others. Every time a firearm goes off, you have a discharge of powder and lead debris from the muzzle of the gun or the action if it's an exposed action firearm, like a semi-automatic or a lever action gun is going to blow debris every time it goes off. Or a revolver will blow a little bit of debris every time it goes off. This, if it gets into your eye, can cause permanent damage to your cornea or retina. So the use of safety glasses is always recommended. Finally, lead. When firing lead cartridges, lead debris will get on your hands and your face. If you shoot a lot in one sitting, it can be a toxic level. You should always wash your hands thoroughly before touching your nose, your mouth, or eating. Or change your clothes before you hold your children or your other loved ones, as you can transfer a significant amount of lead. And finally, for those that are not adults, you should never handle a firearm without adult supervision. Having a responsible adult person with you will prevent you from hopefully breaking any of these rules because they know better. We're going to talk just for a minute about firearm storage. When you are not using a firearm, it should always be kept in a safe manner. Every 15 minutes, there's a firearm stolen out of a vehicle in the United States. And in 2017, there were more than 20 million firearm thefts from vehicles and homes. If you can afford a safe or a locking cabinet, that is the most ideal way to store your firearms. The next best thing is to have a locking case or container, so that at the very least it's going to be difficult to get it out of your home. Ammunition, when stored, should be stored separately from the firearm, so that even if there is a firearm stolen, the ammunition cannot be readily stolen with it. Keeping it in a locked cabinet, a locked drawer, a locked box is going to be the recommended way to do that when storing it in your home. And the last piece of safe firearm handling is cleaning your weapons. Firearms. A firearm, when left unclean, will have unburned powder or other chemicals left in the barrel. This can cause corrosion and degrading of your springs in your barrel. Degraded springs can fail, leading to chain fires and chain reactions that explode your gun. And corrosion in the barrel will create reduced accuracy and precision, which is never safe when you're firing a weapon. These basic things, storing your firearms properly, handling them properly, remembering to check your targets, keep your muzzle pointed in a safe direction, all of these together encompass safe firearm handling and will prevent you from having an accident when handling firearms. In closing, I'd like to share with you this. Firearm ownership is very enjoyable. It creates opportunities for sportsmanship and for pleasure shooting, and when done in a safe and responsible manner, will lead to a lifetime of enjoyment. And for the sake of the young men in the audience that will be going to Firearms Week in July, I'd like to share you what Theodore Roosevelt said about firearms. So this great body of citizens shoots less as time goes on. We should encourage rifle practice for every schoolboy and man in America, as well as in military service with every means in our power. Thus, and not otherwise, may we be able to prevent war. Preserving the peace, the first step in preparation in preparation to prevent war, is to teach men to shoot whenever possible. Maybe a little bit of a paraphrase. Either way, responsible ownership begins with responsible education and learning how to do it properly. Thank you very much. If you have any questions. Don't actually have questions.